Hi, I'm Monique, and this video is called the French purchase process. I'm going to walk you through the process, beginning with the Compromis de Vente, which is the promise to purchase, all the way through to the signing of the final Acte de Vente, and everything in between. So if you're interested, come along with me and let's jump in. Section 1, Introduction to the Purchase Process. In France, purchasing a business or property is a structured legal process. It doesn't happen overnight. Once a price is agreed, there is a formal legal journey that usually takes around 2 to 3 months. This includes legal checks, financing arrangements, and administrative procedures carried out primarily by the notaire. At the time, this process was completely new to me. And like many buyers, especially in France and not knowing French, I trusted that because everything was being handled formally, it would also be straightforward and secure. Fortunately, it was secure, but straightforward it was not. The Compromis de Vente is the first official contract in the French purchase process. It is a legal binding document and agreement between the buyer and the seller, and it sets out the price and the conditions of the sale. It is drafted by the notaire. So once signed, both parties are committed, subject to professional protective conditions. And so once signed, the Compromis de Vente feels like the biggest hurdle is over, but in reality, it's just the beginning. Section 3, the role of the notaire. The notaire is a public legal officer in France, appointed by the state. Their role is to ensure that the transaction is legal, transparent, and properly registered. They do not act for the buyer or the seller individually. Their duty is to the legality of the transaction itself. Between the compromis and the final signing, the notaire carries out a series of legal checks. These can include verifying ownership, confirming planning permissions, checking any debts attached to the business or property, and ensuring that all documents are correct and declared. Section 4, Difference between the notaire and the avocat. In France, the notaire and the avocat have very different roles. The notaire is a public official responsible for drafting and authenticating legal documents, especially in property and business sales. An avocat, on the other hand, is a private legal advisor who represents and defends your personal interests. So while the notaire ensures the legality of the sale, an avocat can advise you strategically and protect your individual position if needed. Section 5, the cooling off period. After the signing of the compromis, the buyer benefits from a 10-day cooling off period. This period allows him to reflect, and if he decides to withdraw, he does not receive a penalty. So therefore, he will receive his deposit back. This is one of the clauses suspensives, which is written up in the Compromis de Vente and pertains to not being able to receive a loan, a bank loan. So this is a very good protection for the buyer because it allows him to reflect and make sure that the decision is the right thing to do. Section 6, Between the Compromis and the Acte de Vente. Between the Compromis and the Acte de Vente, this period, which usually lasts 2 to 3 months, is when the real work happens behind the scenes. If the purchase involves a bank loan, the mortgage application is typically made immediately after signing the compromis. The loan approval then becomes what is known as a condition suspensive, meaning the sale can be cancelled if financing is refused. At the same time, the notaire continues all legal and administrative checks while the buyer finalizes insurance, funding, and any professional advice, such as accounting or business structure, decisions if a company is being created. It's a quiet but crucial stage of the process. Nothing dramatic appears to be happening, but everything is being prepared. Section 7. The Acte, Vente. Finally, you've arrived. The Acte, Vente is the final deed of sale. This is signed at the office of the notaire once all the conditions have been met and financing is in place. On that day, the remaining funds are transferred, ownership is officially changed hands, and the keys are handed to the buyer. It is the moment when the purchase becomes legally real. And so, if you are still here and you've enjoyed this process, I would just like to say thank you so much. Really, really appreciated. And I hope this has been some help to anybody who's in the purchase process or about to embark on the purchase process. I wish you all the very best of luck, and remember, there are no mistakes. It's all a learning process. So jump in and enjoy the adventure.